Look at the children over there.
Hello, we are the Torres family, Isaiah, Samantha, and we have 2 children, Malachi and Isabella, and we are working with the Cries of a Child in Burundi, Africa, in a community called Buckeye.
Safe place to give birth in this location is so needed. And the feedback we received from the community when we moved forward with this plan and from the local health authorities and the government health authorities in Bujumbura was extremely positive. Maternal health is a priority in Burundi and in global thinking about public health.
He's just telling them right now how it could be that you go to visit the surrounding health centers and your bill adds up so quickly that within a few days it could be almost a year's worth of salary that you make. And he said many people have to sell their lands, and their land is all that they have left. For poor people, I mean, land is all that really matters. And so he was just saying that they have to sell their land to even be able to pay, and they won't let them out of the health center actually until they pay because they need that money. And so they kind of lock them in like a prison until the family is able to make it happen. And so it's just unbelievable.
This came forth from the cries of their hearts. They were like, we've lost many children and we can really use this. So as we're bringing this forth, the community, the hearts of the people are really rejoicing inside because there's an opportunity, there's a hope now that things are going to change. And this is why we do what we do, because it's making a difference.
One of the very heartbeats of our organization, and it's to restore our hope. And right now, these women are hopeless. Families question when their wives or their babies, when they're going to give birth, they question if who's going to come home alive. And this shouldn't happen. Not when we live in such a world where there's so many things available. This should not be a scenario. Interestingly enough, when we went to go speak with Sadilo's family, Bernard, who's Umotama, he actually came with us and his wife joined us, who are the parents of Sadilo. And as we began to just kind of have an interest to seek out what kind of experiences they had in their life, in complete brokenness, they then shared that they actually lost 7 children. 2 at the time of birth that was actually in health centers for no possibilities for Cesarian, as well as other children that died from malnutrition and different things as they got older. You know, this family is very open with us, and even when they welcomed us, they said, anything that you have to ask, we're willing to share. But this really was just completely shattered my heart in the end, because they are on the literal outskirts of where we're going to be building the health center. And the reality is this: they are but one example of something that almost every single family is experiencing, and they are right on the border of where we are. The deeper you go into the mountains, the less possibilities you see, and the more death is rampant. And we think, well, they're used to it, or it's something that's become more normal for them, that all of these families are having so many children and some are dying. But each life has a value, and each death brings this deep pain and this deep scar. And we should never devalue that because it's a people that's experienced so much more pain, or because they're Burundians, or because they just don't have those possibilities, and that's just going to have to be okay. It's not okay. And I believe that we can do something to change that. Just to speak a little bit on our personal experience, maybe you'll also share about this. Having chosen to branch off and to specialize in maternity is very close and very dear to our family, very dear to our hearts. Our firstborn, Isaiah, he died stillborn, which means before he was born, his heart stopped. And this was a really devastating thing for our family. This shook us up. We couldn't understand why. I mean, we were even in America. We had a lot of awesome possibilities. But in the end, we've learned to appreciate this experience, as painful as it was. It's brought us to understand a lot of families here on a whole new level. The pain and just the void that brings into a family. It's really given us such a deep understanding and a deep appreciation for the situation that we can say, I know what you're going through. And I feel what you feel, and I understand it, I get it, and it's gonna get better. It's gonna get better. And so this was our firstborn. Our secondborn, Malachi, was born here in Burundi, and yeah, it was a normal birth, it was a natural birth, and everything worked out good, and he was just such a joy. I mean, I remember just holding him, and we couldn't believe that we actually had a baby who was breathing and crying and living, and it was just the greatest joy in the world. And then 2 years later, we had Isabella, who's our third. She's amazing little child, Isabella Nasia Torres. We named her Nasia because in Hebrew it means miracle, and she was exactly that. It just was a really, really challenging moment in my life. So after this cesarean, after I came back to, Isabella was living, and all of the doctors came in saying, she is a miracle child. This does not happen often. Babies are generally not living in this type of situation. And so in the end, we just felt like the Lord did a miracle on our behalf. And we're so grateful for that situation. We're so grateful to have Isabella. She's an amazing joy. She's spunky and full of life and wild, just like her brother. And we just had deep appreciation for the doctors, for the possibilities, but also to what the Lord had done for us in that situation. But having come back to Buckeye, which is about an hour 15 minutes north, which is where we live, I remember just looking around and speaking with the women, and also hearing their fears for when they are going to give birth, and the fact that they don't have any possibilities for cesarean. There's no monitoring, there's no sonograms. In fact, many people are really fearful to go to health centers to give birth. Just hearing some of their pains and some of their frustrations, we just began to think, like, we need to do something. We're not doctors and we don't have a whole lot of money, but we could be a voice, and we can influence people. We can be a voice for these women and for these families, and it's feasible. It's not a huge thing, and it's possible. And so this is kind of what began to happen as we got back, just a deep burden for the women, because in fact, before having to have a cesarean, I was like, it's not hard to give birth naturally. I mean, isn't it something that all women can make happen? And I felt like my entire mindset was just shifted, because I saw in the snap of a finger, complications can come to any woman, and what type of possibilities are there at that point. And so just a deep-rooted burden from fighting for these women and saying they deserve the same possibilities as we have, and their lives are valued just as much as ours, and they have purpose just as much as us. And a statistic that's just mind-boggling for the nation is 1 in 17 babies die during childbirth, and 1 in 125 women die during childbirth. And this is a generalized statistic for the entire nation. This is including capital cities and developed cities where there are possibilities for these kind of things. But in rural settings, I can't even fathom how much more deeper those statistics are when there are no possibilities like that. And so, going back to the heartbeat of our mission, we want to restore a hope for the future. We want to restore a hope. And we believe that through building this health center and focusing on maternity and being the very first hub here in this entire region to bring that possibility, we believe that many hopes will be restored. We believe that there is a safe way and a possibility for women to give birth and have better outcomes, the better outcome of their children living and them themselves living. And so we're really excited about what is to come. We're currently underway. We have roughly half of the amount of the budget raised. Our total budget to build is about $202,000, and we're nearing our half mark. And we need other people to jump on board. You may not know these women. You may not know even where Burundi is, but I encourage you if you want to sow into the life of a family, if you want to sow into mothers and confidence in being able to give safe births, if you yourself have had experiences that have just brought so much pain in your lives and so much devastation, giving back and sowing back into people who do not have those possibilities, it's just incredible. It's incredible, and I encourage you to do so. We need people to jump on board and lock arms with us. We're simple people with big hearts, with big passions, and alone we can't go very far, but together we can accomplish so much. And so I call out to all people who are looking to join on board with this. The time is now, and we can use your help now. So thank you very much, and God bless you. Samantha Torres from the Cries of a Child in Burundi, Africa.
Hello, I'm Isai Torres from the Cries of a Child. I just want to talk about the health center that we're building. And as you guys heard my wife, the testimonies that speak from even our behalf, as we've spoken to some of our workers, I'm overseeing all the building for construction. And it's hard sometimes to understand, you know? I always thought, like, why these people, they're poor, and then here they are, they're having 8 to 10 children. As I speak more and more, and we find out more things about some of our workers, we come to find out that many of them, they shoot to have 8 to 10 children because in many families, a little bit over half of the children die. I have one of my workers who's worked with me, and his experience was really harsh. He's had 6 children. His first 5 children all died within minutes to within 12 hours of being born. And he decided to just move and go somewhere else. And it was just now his last child, and which he had earlier this year, that actually lived. So out of 6 children, only one of them has lived. Even those that have education, I have a friend of mine who's a teacher, his name is Emmanuel. His mother had about 14 children. Only 4 of them are alive. So you look at all these stories that are going on. If we can help change that circumstance, if we can help, because, you know, of course, you know, men are men, and yes, we go through, we move on, but you can see in the eyes and the way that they are, these men that have lost many children, how it's left a void, it's left a hole in their hearts, you know. I know, I speak from experience, I've been there, I've gone through it, and though we've been able to come out of this circumstance and press on, it still leaves an emptiness and a void in our hearts, you know. Why not make a difference? Some people say, well, we don't have a lot. The smallest things can make the biggest difference. Other people look for reasons not to give, when there's thousands of reasons why you should. We're here speaking on behalf of them, saying a little speck, a little country here in Burundi, it really needs people to be like, you know what, here I am to help. So we ask of you to consider what's being done and seeing how you can be a part of this. Maybe you don't have money, but you can be a voice. You can go, you can share. Or maybe you do have money and you're like, well, I want to do more. You could come, you could volunteer. There's many ways that you can come and touch this community. But not only this community, all of us have the power to do something and to change something. Edward Burke said, evil only triumphs when good men do nothing. Whether it's here, whether it's where you're at, you can make a difference. So I just want to say thank you for your time. And this is Isaiah from the Cries of a Child. God bless.